If you're just joining us, welcome and good morning. This is your host, Keely Austin, and this is the Elevate Renatus team call. It is Thriving Thursday, and I am so excited to be here. As of right now, we have 55 participants on the line. Our goal is always to exceed 100. Make sure you text your team. We don't want any ICMs left behind. Today, our trainer is Christion Sadler. Before Renatus, as a young teen, Christion was troublesome and kicked out of class a lot. Once he got older, he was experiencing financial scarcity at a daily wage job in steel fabrication. He heard about real estate and the wealth opportunity that it provides. He attended different guru events, and he felt like he really wasn't getting anywhere. He found Renatus and started hanging around the people that he wanted to be like. He was showing up early to meetings and he left late, helping out wherever and however he could. He was very determined. After Renatus, Christion has completed successfully multiple deals, netting over 6 figures. He's a marketing leader and a PIT team member. If you don't know what that is, that's a President's Advisory Council member in training. That's a really big deal. And one of the founding members of Team Elevate. He's been in the real estate business for over 13 years now, so he's got a lot of experience with real estate. And he's always looking to provide value to everyone around him. We're so very fortunate to get to listen to Christion train today. Good morning, Christion.
Good morning, Keely. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Let me get you the controls.
I want to thank you for everything, and you don't actually need to switch the controls. You're welcome to.
Okay.
However, I accidentally left my computer last night at the office where we held the meeting, and so I'm just using my phone today.
Okay,
And
perfect.
I'm just going to run with it and leave your screen up if that's okay. Keely, thank you for everything that you do. You know, taking on this role of doing these morning calls. I mean, there's a lot of people that are willing to, wake up and get on these calls some of the time, and even most of the time. But to take on the role of being the person who actually hosts these calls, meaning that you're going to be on all of the time, is a big deal. And it benefits a whole heck of a lot of people. And it's not only the people that are on here on the line each and every day, but it's all the people that are going back to the recordings. So I just want to thank you for the impact that you're making in the other people's lives that are part of this community, and look forward to these calls. So thank you, Keely, for everything that you do. And
Thank you,
folks,
Christion.
you're welcome. Yes. Folks, let's jump into things. And before I share about my topic today, what I want to do is I just want to highlight a couple of events that are coming up. Now, there's actually a bunch of events, but I'm going to talk about, a group of them that are going to be based on where you're at, which is coming up on regionals. If you have not made the decision of which regionals you're going to, it's time to make that decision and start making those plans. I mean, I talk to people all the time, since the beginning, because this is what I was told. If you go to regionals, that can put you, up to 12 months ahead of if you don't go. The announcements that are going to be there, the training that's going to be there, missing that event can set you back in your business, and it can set you back in the connections that you make. It also, if you guys have the desire to be a leader, it can really hamper your ability to rise in leadership within the company, because those of us that are in leadership, and even Bob Snyder himself, he looks at who is attending regionals, and you can't really sit on a leadership position within the company if you're not attending those events. So choose your regionals, get there, be there, and make that your event. The event that you don't make it to can never be that life-changing moment for you. But if you decide as you're going to regionals that this is going to be your event, this is going to be your turning point, that this is going to be the time where you turn it on, or this is going to be the time that you level up, absolutely you're going to find those resources to make it happen. Now, if you show up to regionals and you say, this is just another event, I've been here before, I'm not going to hear anything new. This is all stuff that that I've heard and that I've tried. Then guess what? You're probably going to be right. Whatever you decide, you're going to be right. So choose which regionals you're going to, and then make the decision that this is going to be your event. This is going to be the event that propels you to new heights within your business. Regionals is important. So the next thing is, for those of you who are in Utah, we have a big event coming up as well. In fact, regionals is coming up, but another big event that we have, and this is a business where events fuel your business. And this event can be the opportunity for you to really turn on the sales, to really make some serious money. And what I'm talking about is next weekend, we have an intensive. We have Mark Kohler coming into town. Now, if you don't know much about Mark, Mark is a CPA. He's a real estate attorney. He's a published author. He's a video personality for entrepreneur.com. He's a radio show host, and the list goes on and on and on. And interestingly enough, he really got his start in sharing information and becoming I would call him a personality in the world of tax and legal by working with Bob Snyder. Bob Snyder, saw him one day doing a little continuing education class, and he saw something within Mark. And so he talked to him and he asked Mark if he would speak for him. And he assisted Mark in harnessing his skills and taking his knowledge to a new level of engagement with the audience. And this went on and on and on. And amazingly enough, Mark has built a substantial business. Now, it's not all related to working with Bob Snyder and his educational companies, but it is definitely a huge part of his business. And Mark closes business, simple and plain. He gives a few key strategies when he's teaching. He talks about the best decision you can make in your taxes is becoming a business owner, owning a business. And he emphasizes why Renatus is such an amazing business. And he also gives such helpful tools for every single person in that room that most of them come out of there and say, if this is the information I'm getting for showing up to an intensive, I can only imagine what I'm going to get when I spend $20,000 on the education. So be there. It's going to be powerful. And if you have enough people there, you'll sell combos, right? That's kind of the goal of an intensive, is to sell combos. And on top of that, you can also ask those key questions. We're coming into the last quarter of 2019, and there's some decisions that some of you need to make with your entity structuring and what deals you're going to be purchasing, and where you're going to be putting your money as far as your retirement accounts and those types of things. And if you don't make those decisions before the first of the year, guess what? You'll miss out on the tax benefits. Excuse me. So be there. Be there with us in Sandy with Mark Kohler next weekend. It's going to be a powerful event. And don't only be there, but be there with guests. And I emphasized a little bit of Mark's story for a reason. I talked about the fact that, he basically had the opportunity to borrow an audience. And that's my topic for today. Here's what I see that is working very, very well for lots of people. And some of them, you may not even realize that this is what they're doing. So before I get into sharing some of the ICMs that are using this strategy, I want to tell you about a story. And this will help you, understand it and see it. So there's a gentleman who he started a business very, very young. And he actually, worked in basically creating inventions. And so he created an invention and he sold that to a skateboard company, a company that basically owns skate shops. And it was just a little keychain. Started off with just a little keychain that he had created. And you know what? That product went very, very well, and he was able to sell that to the to this company, and sold a lot of them. He had some success, and then that led him to working for companies like Disney and many other toy stores. And he created inventions and toys, and he had some success. But unfortunately, that success wasn't lasting. He got down on his luck and had some really hard times. But then he switched businesses and strategies, and he started going out there and writing books about successful people. And then he actually turned that into creating a movie. And he launched this movie about successful people as well. And he had everything in order. And unfortunately, the economy turned right around that time. And he talks about how within, I think it was about a week period, they showed up to impound his car and file a foreclosure notice on his house. And so, again, he had risen in success, but then he had lost much of that success. And, he started building up a business again, and he continued to help people write books. And then he came across this gentleman who owned a company. And this company had impacted the lives of tens of thousands of people. And, he really shared with the owner of that company some of the things that he teaches to help people break through and get to new heights. And he shared with him the successes that he had in business and the failures, and how ultimately that had led him to some, really key insights to building a business. And this gentleman who owned this company invited him to come and train a little bit. And he started off with some of the local teams, and he trained them. And he actually put out the offer where he said, you know what, I'm willing to, I want to put my reputation on the line. I want you to track the people that are going to work with me one-on-one in coaching, and I want you to track their income. I want to show you the results that I can get. And so, sure enough, some of the people within the local team, they ended up purchasing the coaching program. And this was a one-on-one coaching program. I think it was somewhere around $10,000 that these people were paying. And the owner of the company tracked these people's income. And amazingly enough, on average, their income went up by about 125%. So that's a big deal. So the owner of the company opened up his whole database. In fact, he said, why don't you come and train at one of our national conferences? We're going to have leaders and marketers and students from all across the country. I want you to come in and talk to them. And he came in and he delivered such an amazing and powerful presentation where he basically said, I'm going to show you guys how to sell, and I'm going to do it by selling you. Sure enough, he closed the room. I mean, people were flocking to him to buy his workshops, and I guess they were more of mastermind type deals, and people were coming to him and signing up to coach with him one-on-one. And that event alone became the start of millions of dollars of business. In fact, it put him to the point where not only was he making significant money, but he started to talk to some of the people in his network, and he introduced somebody else in his network. Now, this was a gentleman who was a very highly decorated bodybuilder, and this bodybuilder knew the science of the body, of why people store fat. And he introduced that gentleman to the owner of the company. And he said, you have to see what this guy is doing. So it started off very similar. This bodybuilder was invited to meet some of the local teams. And some of those people decided to participate in what he was doing, and they started to see results. And Bob actually stepped up and he said, in fact, he did this with the previous gentleman as well. He said, "I'm going to test it myself." So he went through the training and the coaching with both of these people, and he saw results in his own life. And he started seeing, himself getting more fit, and he started seeing himself with more energy. And you know what? He said, "I want you to come and speak to my network." And because of that, there was a new program created. There was hundreds, or I should say, there was thousands of pounds lost within, the company and the people that were involved in it. And it changed lives, and it also changed the direction of the businesses of both of those gentlemen. Now, if you haven't clued in by now, I'm talking about Woody Woodward and Ron Williams. And the business owner that I'm talking about is Bob Snyder. We know that our corporate, I call him our corporate personal development coach, because that's kind of what Woody represents to me, even though he doesn't, he's not actually officially a Renatus corporate, member. He has the opportunity to impact our audience. And, those of us who have coached with him have, seen some pretty tremendous results. So I tell you this story for a reason. Because borrowing an audience can be a very powerful way to build your business. And if you look at Nate Lambert, you guys might have heard him on the Founders Webinar. If you're not on the Founders Webinar each week, you're missing out on a lot of good stuff. I want to tell you that right now. You're also missing out on the announcements from the company. So be on there, be on the Founders Webinar. And this week, they allowed Nate to come on and share his most recent success, which was he made $143,000 in August. Not $143,000 so far this year up until August, but $143,000 paid commissions in his bank account paid out in August. And guess what? A lot of that came from Nate borrowing an audience. See, what he did was he built a relationship with a couple of gentlemen who had built a company, and through that company they had built a large Facebook group, a private Facebook group, meaning not anybody could come in there and essentially spam their wares. They couldn't go in there and pitch something like Renatus or anything else for that matter. But what he did was he built a relationship, and he showed how, with what they were teaching within their company, what we have with Renatus could really add to the value of that for their customers and their clientele. And then as he was a customer himself and was inside that Facebook group, he worked out the opportunity to be able to essentially pitch to that Facebook group, to invite people from that Facebook group to come see what he's doing here with Renatus. And a big portion of his $143,000 a month came right from within that group. Now, I recently had the opportunity, and I think I've shared with you guys this before, where I was able to speak on somebody else's stage. So I've had a few of these opportunities, and this last opportunity was pretty phenomenal. So I'll kind of share with you the basics of it. This gentleman is local here in Utah, and he is kind of a personal development trainer. He hits on a lot of things, not only personal development, but money habits. He hits on fat loss. He hits on all kinds of things, and basically helps people understand how to get their mindset right and how to level up in their life. And he reached out actually on Facebook, and he said, who do you know that could speak for an hour on a powerful topic? And I think somebody tagged me in the post, or maybe I reached out myself. I can't remember what it was, but Eric reached out to me and said, what is it that you train on? And I shared with him a little bit of what we do. And so he said, you know what, I may be interested in you speaking to my group. The first thing I'd like you to do is come to some of my events. I need to make sure that our mindset is in alignment, because quite frankly, if you come and you don't have the right mindset in participating in my events, I know you're probably not going to be the right fit for talking to my audience. So sure enough, I came to his event. I participated. I went all in, and you know how these things go with the personal development events. You're standing up, and you're clapping, and you're dancing on stage if you have to, and you're writing your journals, and you're sharing with your neighbors, and you're doing the exercises. And I was doing all that, and it was an amazing opportunity. In fact, I met people at that very first event just by going to attend that I ended up enrolling in Renatus. And he said, you know what, I want you to come back and I want you to speak. And so I came back and I spoke, and I think I had 15 minutes or something. He gave me 15 minutes to talk to his audience. And sure enough, well, no. He actually had me speak for 5 minutes on one of his stages, and I spoke for 5 minutes. And then I came back and I spoke for 15 minutes at another event, and he gave me the opportunity to do a pitch. And I basically I created an offer, and I made a pitch for people to come to a 3-day event, which was essentially a Thursday, a Friday, and then a house tour. And so we did that, and I had some people that enrolled, and I had some people that came to those events, and I had some people that bought. And at that point, he had talked to me before I went and spoke on that occasion, and he said, typically when somebody speaks on my stages, we have a split. We have some sort of a split of income. So have we talked about that? I said, well, we haven't. Tell me about it. And we worked out an agreement to where a portion of any sale that I made went to him. So not only did I compensate him for the people who bought from that event, but I also compensated him from the people that I'd met on the very first event that I went to. Now, why would I do that? If I wasn't asked to, if we didn't have agreement in place, well, it's about trust. I want to make sure that he understood that I value the opportunity that he was giving me. So I made some money, he made some money, and life went on. But then he reached out to me and he said, hey, I've got an event coming up, and it's pretty far in the future, but I would like you to be a part of that event, and I want to give you an hour, and I want you to create something to deliver value, and I want to essentially allow you to sell my audience. Same split as last time. So I told him, as long as I'm in town, I'll be there. And I had some things that I had to check on, and turns out that I was going to be able to be in town. I just had to kind of adjust a trip that I was taking, and I committed to be there. And this was about 3 weeks ago now, is all. And at that event, I spoke, and I shared some of the concepts of what we do, and not in the way of saying, well, let me tell you about Renatus, but instead saying, let me talk to you guys about some things that can assist you in operating your life. Let's talk about, the ways of creating money without using your own money. And let's talk about the ways of saving on taxes. And let's talk about the ways of, essentially turning the bank products into your favor rather than the bank's favor. And, I shared some key principles. And instead of making an offer at that event and, essentially having them come and pay for it, I said, I'm going to do a private house tour just for those of you that are here. And I'm not going to charge you to be there. I'm going to give you my time for free. However, I need you to put some skin in the game that shows me that you're going to be there. Because I don't want to create an event. I don't want to, pay for food and, and organize these things if people aren't committed. So what I want you to do is I want you to go fill out a form, and I want you to put your credit card information down, and essentially you're going to spend $50 if you don't show up. So not if you do show up. You're going to spend $50 if you don't show up. And I had 17 people that came to the back of the room, and they signed up. I had 16 of those people that showed up at that private house tour. And out of that private house tour, I now have, I want to think of how many of those guests, and some of them were couples, but of those guests, I want to say 8 or more that have been to events. Of those, I have 1 that has enrolled in full combo cash. I have 2 of them right now that are looking for their funding for their combo cash. No, make that 3 of them that are looking for their funding right now, full combo. I shouldn't say cash because they're still figuring it out, right? So I have 3 of them that are looking for their funding for their combo, and I have many others that are still somewhere in the process. Some of them have been to 1 event. Some of them are coming to their 2nd event. I was actually texting with a gentleman right before this who, he went to that house tour, and now he's been trying to get the time to, the time off of his other duties to be at a Thursday night. So he's coming tonight. And yeah, it's been very rewarding. And I'm getting paid out today, actually, on that first combo sale that came through. So I'm going to be sending a check off to Eric, the guy who held this event. And I know when he gets that check, he's going to know it was worth his while. But the great part about it is, most likely within the next week or 2, I'm going to be able to send him another check and then another check. And as I do that, my plan is right now, I know that he has a huge presence on social media and a huge email list. So I'm going to see if we can't work out some type of a web event so that we can hit a larger portion of his audience. So why am I sharing with you guys these things? Well, first of all, because it's working, right? I want to share with you what's working. And more importantly, I want you to think about the audiences that you can tap into right now. It doesn't have to be you speaking on a stage of a personal development speaker. It doesn't have to be you getting in with the owner of a large company that has a huge database of a private Facebook group. There's all kinds of ways of borrowing audiences. Sometimes it's as simple as asking for a referral, meaning somebody that's successful in your life, somebody that is well respected in their circle of influence. And we all know that everybody needs Renatus, but they may not feel like right now Renatus is what they're looking for. However, if you've created some value in that relationship, you may be able to ask them for some referrals. You might even be able to ask them to put out a post on social media or email to their email list, or simply talk to some of the people that they know and make some personal introductions to you because of the value that you bring. And so it's about doing some investigation and finding out what is that value that you bring that they would be excited to share with their network, otherwise known as their audience. So this is the conversation. This is the topic of the day. I've got a few more minutes here. I want to open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions? And I'm going to have to get over to chats here. All right.
Hey, Christian, it's Keely.
Keely, come on out.
How did you and this gentleman decide how much you were going to pay him?
Well, he kind of had a standard. And so his standard is 50% of any sales that happen within his room, like on his stage. And then 10% of any sales after that. So any of the people that come from the event any back end sales is what they call it, 10%. And so I did ask him, I said, well, is that 10% of gross or 10% of net? Because technically, with me offering what I offer with Renatus, I only get paid 50% of that. He said, well, what I have with everybody else is 10% of gross. And so I said, you know what? I can do that. So that's my agreement with him is I pay him $2,000 for every combo that I enroll.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. Sounds like you've got it. So leaving the call, I want you guys to spend a couple of minutes here. Now, these are the minutes that you would have already been still here on this call. So take, the next 1.5 minutes, and I want you to just start journaling.
Hello, Chris.
And journal
Hello.
on 1 second. Yep, 1 second. So journal on who you know that you could borrow their audience. So that's your assignment for today. And then, yes, somebody was there to ask a question.
Yes, I was wondering, is Bob going to write a book about his life, an autobiography? A biography about himself? That would be great.
Yes, at some point he would, yes. But I don't know that for sure.
Okay. Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Chris, Steve's here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, so my question is, so knowing that you were able to be approached, how do you position yourself to the community where somebody with a large audience will be able to allow you to speak to the audience? How do you position yourself as you're just getting started?
Really, it's about personal connections up front. And so, yeah, Eric didn't approach me. He put a post on Facebook, and then I reached out to him.
Got it. And once you reached out, what was your initial presentation as far as like presenting what we do as a community and how we impact people? Was it more towards velocity banking or the whole education as a whole?
It was more of the whole concept of, I led with real estate investing because that's what I'm most known for. So if he went to my profile, and you got to expect that, by the way, when you guys are connecting with people on social media, one of the first things they're going to do is this first thing that you do when you're investigating anybody. You go over to their profile and you start scanning through, and you start seeing like, okay, who is this person? What are they all about? So if you guys have a personal Facebook page that doesn't show you in the best light, it's time to start cleaning that up. And so anyways, yeah, I led with real estate investing and financial literacy. So those were the two topics basically that I, told him that I could train on.
Hey, Christian?
Yeah.
I might point out that if you hadn't been doing all this volunteer work and leading all these different classes and groups and house tours, you wouldn't have been ready when that guy asked for help.
Yeah, you're right. If I didn't take the opportunities that were in front of me, I might have choked.
Hey, Christian, it's Rhonda.
Hey, Rhonda.
I am doing something that I've never done before, and I'm kind of excited about it. I'm doing a book club. It's called Entrepreneurial Minds. And so Michael was on Monday, and I asked him how I could kind of introduce the business. So he said introduce his book. So that's our book for next month. This is 7 Financial Cheat Codes. I'm kind of excited about it. See what happens.
Oh, that is awesome. All right, I'll give time for one more question. Is there a final question?
Hey, Christian, this is Jenna from Team Elevate Denver.
Hey, Jenna.
Hey, so I am working with a client, a potential client who is a seasoned investor, and he hasn't really been able to make it to any of the in-person events. But I've done a one-on-one with him, and I was looking at leveraging one of my leaders to have another one-on-one. But I'm just curious of what kind of angles you take with someone that's already a seasoned investor and kind of feels comfortable with the knowledge that they have, as far as showing them how the community and how the education can add to them even more.
Sure. So you really got to find out WIIFM, what's in it for me, or what's in it for them, essentially. And so when you think about that, I'll give you an example of a couple of the people here locally. So Brian Pitcher, for example, for him, it was about the network, right? He was already doing deals. I think he was doing about 30 deals a year, but things were slowing up for him. I mean, the market is getting tighter here in Utah, and so the same amount of marketing activity was yielding less results. And so what he saw was, by having a network of people, most likely that would mean he could get more deals. And so sometimes that's the angle to take. For some of these people, they may want to ultimately be an instructor at some point. And so that might be the angle that you talk about. Now, you can't tell him that you're going to make him an instructor, right? But you can talk about the fact that, hey, listen, with your experience, many of our instructors are brought up from within the ranks of Renatus. So if you're willing to come and contribute to the community, there could be the potential of you ultimately being one of the instructors in the future. So it's about asking a lot of questions up front and finding out what they need in their life, what they desire in their business, and then speaking to that need or that desire with the opportunity of being a part of the group.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Clear some things up.
Cool. All right, guys, I got to jump off here. I'm going to get prepared for the pit team call coming up. Appreciate you all being on. It is Thriving Thursday. Do your journal exercise and go make it happen.
I wonder.
Have a good day.